So a couple of months ago, I made a video called Life is Strange, the most beautiful game I've ever played, which if you haven't seen, you should go and watch. Towards the end of that video, I said that I was yet to play any of Life is Strange's other games. However, since then, I've played and completed Life is Strange 2, and it was certainly not what I was expecting. I would describe Life is Strange 2 as a great game, but a bad sequel. Some of you may be confused when I say that, so let me explain it to you a bit better. On its own, the game is really good and enjoyable. However, when you factor in the part that this is a sequel to Life is Strange, it doesn't really even come close to the first. This is mainly due to a lot of different factors which I will get to in a bit. However, I don't completely dislike this game. I do have some positive things to say about the game. However, I'll cover my negatives first because I think people are more interested in that than hearing me glaze this game for an hour. But anyway, let's start off with my first negative, which by the way, there are going to be a couple of spoilers for the game, so just you've been warned. Anyway, my first major complaint about Life is Strange 2 is that we, the player, don't get the power. Instead, it's our little brother Daniel who gets the power of telekinesis. And while the devs did try to let us control Daniel's powers in some way, by teaching him to use it for bad, for good, or when necessary, it's still not the same. Also, in the first episode, which is 3 hours long, we only ever see Daniel's powers 3 times, and only one of those times do we actually get a good look. My second complaint is the art style. The first game had this really unique water paint art style applied to everything. It's hard to describe it in words, but it was just nice. The second game, however, this is literally just Unreal Engine. Not saying this is a bad thing, as it still looks pretty good, but it almost makes the game not look like a Life is Strange game. And while we're on the topic of the game not feeling like a Life is Strange game, there are some elements that attribute to that. Mainly the nudity. Like, holy crap, in this game we actually got multiple scenes of nudity. Now look, I've played Cyberpunk 2077, I've played Grand Theft Auto 5. Nudity in video games is nothing new to me. But it's just the fact that in the first game, the most we got was Max and Chloe in their underwear, or Max's bare shoulders while showering. That was it. And while I can to an extent understand the use of it in the lake scene, why is this chick walking around without her top on? Daniel, our 9-year-old brother, is with us in the camp. My next complaint is the story. The story itself is really good and has some good moments. However, there isn't much relatability to it. The overall story is, our dad gets shot by a racist cop and now we're on the run from the police as we hide in the wilderness and move across the country to Mexico, joining a weed farm and defeating a cult while we use our telekinetic powers to fight off baddies. Yeah! Well, the first game wasn't 100% relatable with the whole time controlling element and searching for the disappearance of a friend. It definitely had its relatable moments that anyone could relate to. The second game doesn't have many of those moments, and while I'm sure that to people with younger brothers this game would seem a whole lot more relatable, to people like me who are an only child, it's honestly not that relatable. My next complaint is the choices. It doesn't seem like a lot of the game's choices matter, as whatever you pick, the outcome will be the same. I saw this review which actually sums it up better than I ever could. I've never seen a choice game that blatantly ignores your choices like I have this game. Every choice I make doesn't matter because the people around me end up doing what I said not to do anyway. Example, I purposely made sure not to steal anything from a convenience store and paid for all my food despite being given the option to steal. An old man comes up to me and accuses me of stealing, asking to see my bag. I'm given the option to fight, discuss, or run. Seeing that I stole nothing, I wanted to discuss the misunderstanding with him. Instead, my character acts like a straight criminal and punches the guy, despite me wanting to follow the rules. Another example. This dude wants to steal money from a drug dealer, and he wants to use my brother. I'm given the option of saying no, I won't do that, or yes, I will do it. He says he respected my decision for saying no. 10 minutes later, he takes my brother and steals from the drug dealer anyway. What is even the point of asking? Everything is an illusion of choice in this game. Overall, I hate how this game gives you the illusion of choice, but in reality it is very shallow and your decisions mean nothing. Your brother will always do the opposite of what you want in order to create a conflict for the story, and despite trying to pick the best options, like not stealing, the game will shoehorn you into playing how they want you to play, regardless of what you want. That basically sums up the game's choices. Next is the villains and bad guys. Yes, the villains in the game are really well portrayed. My only problem is that every single time there is a bad guy or villain in the game, there is a good chance they're doing this because they're racist. And while I am aware that racism against Mexicans is a problem in America, does every single villain in the game need to be racially motivated? My final complaint is that the acting can be a bit dodgy at times. While it is mostly good acting, there are points in the game where the acting seems a bit bad. Mainly when it comes to scenes where Sean is upset and a couple of Daniel's scenes. Now that sums up the negatives I have for the game. Let's move on to the positives. My first positive is the music. Dontnod really knows what they're doing when coming up for music for their Life is Strange games. The first Life is Strange game had some of the best music in a video game, and Life is Strange 2 carries that tradition with its nostalgic, calming music that anybody could listen to. The second positive is the characters. Again, Dontnod is really good at coming up with interesting and good characters for the game. They're also really good at coming up with unlikable characters. Life is Strange 1 definitely had some unlikable characters, but this game turned it up to the high. My third positive is that it doesn't completely ditch itself from the first game, nor does it stay attached to it a lot. There is a perfect amount of references and callbacks to the first game that fans of the original can enjoy and people who haven't played the first game won't be confused by. We see Arcadia Bay and hear about Chloe Price, and we actually end up meeting David in the final episode. My final positives is the endings. This game has 7 endings, while the first game only had 2, which you could choose from, which some people say defeats the whole purpose of making the choices in the game, which I can see where they're coming from, but I disagree. Anyway, this game doesn't let you choose your ending. All the choices you make along the way will determine your ending. While we're on the topic of endings, I like how most of them show future versions of our characters, which is nice to see where they are in that point in time. I know I said that was my final positive, but I just have one more I want to share. And that's the fact that there's a lot more cinematics in this game. A lot more cooler and better camera angles than the first game had. And just in general, a lot more badass scenes. And that is my opinion on Life is Strange 2, and why I think it's a great game, but a bad sequel. Again, these are just my opinions. You may disagree with me on some of them, and that's cool, just don't make a big deal out of it. Now, I was pretty critical with this game at the start, but I would still definitely recommend this game to any Life is Strange fan, or not. It's still a really good and fun game to play. Again, fellas, if you haven't seen my video on Life is Strange 1, then you should check it out. And maybe I'll make a video on Life is Strange True Colors when I play that. Or maybe even Life is Strange Double Exposure when that comes out. Which, while we're on the topic of double exposure, I just want to talk about something. I recently went onto the discussion page of the game and holy crap, people are complaining about the stupidest stuff. The dumbest thing I saw were people saying how Max doesn't look the same, which... Are you dumb? Max was 18 in the first game and now she's almost 30. She's gonna look different. That's how aging works. Not everybody is Paul Rudd, and some people age more than others. If you need an example, look at Markiplier when he was 18 versus when he was 30. Look at Anna Diarmas when she was 18 versus when she was 30. Or hell, even look at photos of Jeffrey Dahmer when he was 18 versus when he was 30. Nobody is gonna look the same when they age, especially when it's a 10-year gap. I think this is another example of people going, I'm upset because they didn't make it exactly how I wanted it, and people who have nothing better to do than to find reasons to get angry about stuff online. If you don't want to play double exposure, then don't. Just don't buy it. It's as simple as that. Why do you need to waste your time complaining about stuff? Go outside for once. Anyway, with that rant out of the way, I'm gonna end the video. If you enjoyed it, like and subscribe. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye!